Location settings. From my home ribbon, I'm going to go to Setup. We're going to go down to what we call Location Settings. So this is going to be your store-wide settings. Now there are a lot of tabs here with a lot of different settings. We're going to discuss each one individually on a separate tour. So let's start with work orders. So work orders, these default settings here, this is what is going to display on the invoice. So if I do want to have the hours on the invoice for the customer, then I just check the box. One thing you want to remember is this is what's going to be on the invoice. Now, when you're actually in a work order, you will always see everything. This is what's going to be printed on the invoices. Display technician, you want to be careful with this one. Anytime you write a work order, you're going to assign a technician, and that technician's name will be on the invoice. But if I check that box, then what it does is it actually puts the technician name on every single labor operation. So you're going to see their name. Same thing with service advisor. So you want to be kind of careful with that one. This display price reduction actually doesn't work. If you do a discount on something, then yes, you're going to see the discount on the work order. On the material lines, you're going to have quantity, rate, part number. You can have manufacturer, technician, service advisor, display the MSRP and a price reduction. And on sublet lines, quantity, rate, and service advisor. There is no technician on a sublet line. Work order. So work order default appointment time. So what this is for the scheduler. So when I go to make an appointment, the default's going to be set for 8 a.m. You can change this time to anything you want. If you don't want it to default, you can do that and then just pick a time. Book next appointment when posting an invoice. All that means is when I post the work order to a finalized invoice, the screen is going to pop up to book the next appointment. So it's just a reminder for your service advisor to book that appointment. You can have a default appointment time. You can have it in months or days. You just select whatever you want. Default promise time, 1 hour. So if I come in here and say 1 hour, that is when I'm promising that out. So when I take that appointment and convert it to a work order, it's going to promise it out within 1 hour. Or I can say at the end of the day. So that would be something like the end of the day here. Default appointment duration. So when I make an appointment, the default is going to be 1 hour, and you can have a minimum duration. So in other words, I can't book an appointment for less than half an hour. And again, you can set anything you want in here. Default appointment to confirmed. So it just automatically confirms the appointment as you put it in. Now you do have the website availability where people can log on to your website and book appointments through your website. And then there is a little confirmation box for that also, so you can confirm that appointment. Work order wizard. When I go to write a work order, what is the first screen that's going to come up? Do I want to look for the contact and vehicle first, or do I want to start adding the jobs first? So you can pick and choose which way you want to start it. Look up future work. So anytime I write a work order, what the system will do is it will automatically search in the future for any future appointments. So you might be writing a work order today, but you might have an appointment coming up in a couple of days for that customer, and you can use that instead. And you can actually go up to 16 weeks out into the future. Default core status. Whenever I put a part on a work order with a core, that's our default. In other words, it's going to assume we're going to return it. If you select unknown, it will have the core charge on there and it will be in purple. So it's going to force your service advisor before they can post the work order to an invoice to either mark it as returned or not returned. Not returned means exactly that. It's just not returned. We're going to charge the customer for it. This one will not let you post the work order to an invoice. Default reminders. So you can have, if you have reminders and you're using them, you can have a group that you create to where it automatically pops up. Now you still have to assign the group, but at least it'll bring it up first. Reminder items, skip if there's no past services. So if there's no past services, it will skip it. That's all it is. Default interval service. So you do have the capability of pulling up factory service intervals, and you can assign it to a specific category. If you don't want the system to prompt or bring that up during the initial write-up of the work order, you can check this box and that screen will not appear. It just skips that screen. Round labor hours, you can have it in 1 decimal, in other words 1.2 hours, or 2 decimals. So it'd be like 1.23 hours, 1 or 2, whichever you want. This one will just round it up. You can also use the technician hours. Remember, you're going to have labor hours on the labor lines and tech hours. This is the automatic prompt for OEM tire sizing. So whenever I go to look up tires, it'll automatically pull up the factory tires sizes. Always show a work order note. So whenever I have a little attach a note, anything that I've written in there, if I check that box, anytime anybody goes into the work order, it will automatically open the note. So that way you don't have to remember to do it. Automatically prompt for work order authorization. What this will do is anytime you go in or out of a work order, a little pop-up's going to come up to get an authorization. If you don't want it to do it all the time, you don't have to. Automatically add services to the authorization text. What that is whenever I do get an authorization, it will put the titles of all of the jobs that are on that work order into the authorization. So that gives you just extra documentation on what's being authorized. And this automatic save document, every so often the system does an automatic save. Now, if I'm jumping in and out of work orders quite a bit, then I have a tendency to use a save and close a lot. That way I don't have to worry about it. But anything you change here, you're going to want to hit save at the top left. So once I do that, then it'll refresh the system and any changes you made will be in there. Now don't forget, I'm going to kind of go back to this a little bit, talk about the way these invoices are printed. You do have the capability of having multiple variations of a document. In other words, you could have an invoice that's a standard invoice. You might have one for Fleet A, a different one for Fleet B. You might have a different one for warranties. So you can make whatever you want in here. And that's going to be through the print documents. So this is just going to be whatever your standard, everyday, normal looking invoice is. And that is the work order tab under location settings.